Good morning, everybody. Excited how to live in flow. That's the current journey I am on personally and professionally. It is such a brilliant way to live your life. Being in flow has completely changed my life, and I'm really excited about sharing how it can transform your life today as well. We've got a couple of minutes to go. I'm just allowing people to join in and get time to settle down. Good morning, Ashraf. Good morning, Kugason. I hope I'm pronouncing your names properly. Good morning, Carissa. Good morning. I think that is Nonieli. Good morning, Feroz. I hope you've got wonderful sunshine where you are. I am in the UK. I'm not far from London, and we've got blue skies and wonderful sunshine. We've been incredibly blessed during this time with just awesome weather. Good morning, Crystal. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Brenda. Just pop one thing you'd like to get out of today's webinar. One thing, one takeaway that you would love today. Okay, we are nearly going live. We're just in our last 20, 30 seconds or so. Morning, Herman. Morning, Piero. Good morning, Robert. Okay, we're absolutely on 10 o'clock UK time and 11 o'clock your time. So I'm Sylvia Baldock. Some of you will have seen me on previous webinars, and I live, as said a moment ago, not far from London. It's about 50 minutes by train from London. However, you may be able to tell from my accent that I'm actually from Glasgow, which is in Scotland, which is just one of the most beautiful places in the world. Very scenic, very mountainous, lots of beautiful lochs, lots of big open green spaces that are completely unspoiled. And when you drive through the Highlands of Scotland, every time you drive round a bend, there is another stunningly beautiful view. So I'm very blessed, and I get to go up to Scotland once a month, normally, not during lockdown, but normally, because I have some business clients up there that I work with. So today is all about maximizing your talent. It's about how to find more flow in your business, in your life, but also how to focus and get more fulfillment to live the life that you love, doing the work that you love. And I'll just put up a background slide on me. Hold on, let me just get back into the slides. Okay. For some reason, my slide doesn't want to move. I'm not quite sure why. Let me just put my specs on and see if I can get the technology working. Michelle, I know that you are listening in, and I wonder if you have the ability. Let me just share, just sharing my screen again to see if we can. Okay. Some reason it doesn't seem to want to move, which is incredibly annoying. Okay. Right, so let's try. Michelle, if you could help to upload the slides that I put in earlier, that would be fantastic. Sorry, guys. So anyway, while we are trying to fix the technical issue, let me just have a chat to you about why this is such a hot topic for me. Okay, so Michelle's downloading my slides and we'll be with you shortly. So let me just talk to you a little bit about why maximizing your talent and particularly operating in flow is such a passion of mine. So if I take you back to 2012, I was running 8 business networking events. And these were membership groups. And every time that one of these groups would run, which obviously there was 8 meetings a month, I would be running the groups, so emceeing the event, but also I'd be running 2 different training slots. And one training slot would be how to maximize your networking and how to get more out of the whole networking experience, how to promote your business effectively, and how to connect with people at a deep level. The other training slot would be some aspect of business or personal development. And I used to get some of my members involved in delivering those slots, but a lot of the time I was delivering them on my own because not everybody was confident enough to stand up and speak in front of the groups. And the groups were between 20 to 30 people every single month. So I was doing a lot of training and development, and then I developed half-day workshops on, first of all, how to network more effectively, and then how to build more personal impact. And those then stretched into full-day workshops. And I was really loving this. And then I took a profile test, a bit like some of you have done in advance of today. And can I just say that if you have received your profile and you haven't done it, why not take 10 minutes right now while I'm speaking just to fill in that profile, because you'll get even more value from today's session if you actually know where you sit on the contribution compass spectrum. So when I took my profile back in 2012, I came out as a champion profile, which I'm going to explain to you very soon. And a champion is most in flow and adds most value when they're delivering one-to-many. So a bit like what I'm doing right now, but particularly standing in front of a room full of people or standing on stage in front of a big audience. And so when I saw this and read through my strengths, I thought, okay, well, I'm already doing a lot of that. I mean, 8 times a month, I'm standing up in front of the networking groups and I'm running extra workshops every month. Wonder how I could stretch this. I wonder how I could prove that this is absolutely my strength here. So as serendipity would have it, and as so often happens when we have a thought, one of my members said, Sylvia, you're getting quite good at this speaking lark. Why don't you come along to the Professional Speaking Association, which I'll refer to as the PSA. And I thought, well, never heard of it. What's it all about? So she took me along, and I'll never forget that first night. I heard 2 phenomenal speakers. One was an ex-TV presenter, and he was also incredibly funny. In fact, he actually does stand-up comedy as well as speaking. And so he delivered a very polished, very engaging talk, and I was pretty blown away. And then after him, we had a second speaker who happened to be part of the Magic Circle. And while he was delivering a very effective business talk, he was also weaving in magic as he spoke. Really, really clever. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I thought I could speak. This was a whole new level of speaking that I had never come across. And I thought immediately, what on earth have I got to say to this prestigious audience, these people who speak all over the world for considerable sums of money and are really polished? Now, when we're faced with a dilemma, our brain immediately does what it's meant to do, which is protect us. So it will give us all the reasons why we shouldn't do something, because the brain's job is to keep us safe. However, despite all the reasons that were flooding into my brain on why I should not join this organization, I actually like being scared. And I believe we should all be scared on a regular basis. Because if we're playing things too safe, we're in our comfort zone. And you may have heard me say on the last webinar that there's only two things that grow in the comfort zone, and that is waistlines and dissatisfaction. And let's face it, none of us want that. So I joined the PSA. It took me a few months before I offered to stand up and speak in front of them. But when I did a presentation on profiling, on playing to your strengths, on operating in flow. And I delivered that 3 times at different PSA events. And each time I got really good feedback. It was very polished. It was well presented. But each time somebody would come up to me and say, enjoyed your presentation, but what's your story? Why is this such a passion for you? And I initially said I don't have a story, but then I was encouraged to develop my story. And the reason this is such a passion for me is that I came from a very, very strict Baptist upbringing where I wasn't encouraged to explore the world at large. I was very much brought up to put all my time and energy into studying the Bible and Christianity and being at church. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was a very loving upbringing, but it was quite narrow culturally and socially. I then went straight from that at a very young age into a strong relationship with a very strong character who I married at 19, and then realized I'd married a bully, and his raison d'etre was to keep me small. So for a huge part of my life, I was anything but living life in flow, anything but living a life of fulfillment. And therefore, when I discovered myself and when I started to grow and develop, and then I discovered flow, it was just like finding the Holy Grail. It was magic, and it really changed my life. I'm going to take a little break now while you just add your profiles. As I say, if you haven't done your profile, please do it. But I'm just going to check in with my messages from Michelle and see if we can get the screen up and running. So, okay, Michelle, how are we doing? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to turn screen share off. I am going to upload my slides. So I'm still here. I haven't gone. I am just really trying to get my slides up and running for you. So let's try this once more. Sharing my screen with you, and for some reason it doesn't want to work when I reduce my screen, which means that I'll need to play it in full screen, and which means that I may not be able to see your questions, so I'll need to reduce it when I do. But anyway, we just need to make this work. Okay, I'm going to come on to full screen. And I do apologize for this. And share. Okay, so let's move on. Here's what we're going to learn. We're going to understand the 4 natural energies that lead to flow. We're going to look at an overview of the 8 different profiles. And I just want to say at this stage that it's not my role to persuade you that you are the profile that you've come out on from taking the Contribution Compass test. What my role here is to explain the main characteristics, the strengths and challenges of the 8 different profiles, so that you can see what resonates with you most, where you think you sit on that spectrum of 8 profiles, and therefore how you could engineer your life and your time to be more fully in flow. And then I'm going to talk about how you can tap into more of your true potential to live a life that's much more fulfilling, much more on purpose, and that comes much more easily. And, you know, we're brought up to believe that the only way to succeed is to work hard. And those two words, work and hard, are synonymous in our brain. And yet when we're in flow, because we're playing to our strengths and the work comes easily and naturally, it doesn't feel hard. It feels like we're living life on purpose. And this is what we were put on this planet to do. And that's magic. I love this quote from Albert Einstein. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. I don't know about you, but I was brought up to be that proverbial jack of all trades, to be good at everything. You know, when I went to school, if there was something that I was weak on, that's the thing the teacher wanted to focus on. At parents' evenings, the teacher would focus on not the good things that I'd done, because I was quite academic, not the high scores. She would focus on something that I wasn't so good at, and let's get extra tuition in this area. Whereas if we're focusing on our strengths and we're developing our strengths further, that's where we add most value to our business, to our clients, and to our own lives. So a little bit about the background of Team Dynamics and Contribution Compass. It's based in the I Ching, which is an ancient book created by Chinese emperors thousands of years ago. And it's literally the book of change. And when you apply the knowledge you'll learn today, you will change beyond all recognition. It was created by Carl Bates, who many of you will know, Carl Bates and his partner, Karen Ravik. And I know that Carl has run many webinars for you. Carl is currently working with a partner in the UK who is Paul Evans. And I do a lot of work for Paul, with Paul. And so that's how I got involved in Contribution Compass. So just a few stats for you. I'm not going to bore you with stats, but Contribution Compass massively increases engagement in teams and in businesses. Disengaged employees cost the UK 52 to 70 billion per year in lost productivity. And then further down here, this Gallup poll shows a staggering 83% of the UK workforce. This is actually global, and it's actually 85% of the global workforce are either disengaged or ambivalent about their job. Now, just imagine the impact that has on their productivity, their motivation, and ultimately the profitability of either their business or the business they're working in. Also, disengaged employees leave jobs and move on and keep moving on, looking for some sort of fulfillment and enjoyment. And looking down here, average recruitment costs of one person are at least £30,000. But the lost time in bringing those people on board, in training them and getting them up to speed to be really effective, it runs into millions. And just two more statistics I want to share on the importance of an engaged team. You will get this, by the way, in the follow-up email that I've done. I prepared an ebook for you. Company revenue declines 32.7% when your staff are disengaged, and rises at least 19.2% when you have an engaged team. And team retention increases by as much as 87% with an engaged team. That's why it's so important to recognize people's strengths, to enable them to play to those strengths, to be in flow, because it massively increases engagement. So let's move on to talking about flow. And just before I go on, I just want to say that today's session will not only help you to recognize your own strengths and challenges, but it will also help you to identify where your colleagues sit on the spectrum, and therefore to really understand the way they operate, their strengths, their challenges, their communication style, and therefore how you can adapt your style to get the most out of that relationship and working with different people who are different profiles on the spectrum. Not only that, you will probably recognize your partner or your children, or your friends, as I talk you around the 8 profiles. And that also enables you to communicate with those people on a way that is right for them, because one size does not fit all. And I know it's really helped me to support my daughters and to advise them as they grow and develop their careers and as they choose different options and different job roles. It's massively helped me to understand them. And as soon as I trained in this, I profiled my whole family so that I could really help them and support them with the knowledge of where they add most value. So those of you that were on my webinar last week, will remember that I talked a bit about being in flow, and I describe flow as the path of least resistance. It's when we are living life on purpose, playing to our God-given strengths, and our life is unfolding in a way that brings more harmony, more purpose, and more fulfillment. I like to describe it as a fast-flowing river, and the water is going down to the sea, and it doesn't matter what obstacles get in the way of that water. It might be a huge tree across the river, it might be a massive boulder, but the water will circumnavigate those obstacles and it will get to the sea. When we're in flow, we're so aligned with what we're doing that we overcome problems, we solve things, we get around those obstacles. And we do it in a way that is really positive, and we find better ways to do things. And also it sparks up our creativity. Now, the majority of adults think they're not creative because we tend to think creativity is art, it's design, it's music, it's sculpture. However, we can be creative in any area that we're involved in. We can be creative in putting together a webinar like I'm doing today, or a talk. We can be creative in the way we pull together a project or put together a spreadsheet or analyze workflow in a business. There's so many ways that we can be creative, and we're all born creative. It just gets suppressed out of us as we're growing and developing. However, when you're in flow, because you're repeatedly doing what you do best, it sparks up those creative genes. And at the end of the day, you can really see the difference that you've made. And making a difference is one of our basic needs. So you feel fired up and energized. And being in flow is a bit like going to the gym. The more you do it, the stronger you become. So you begin to become known as a bit of an expert in your field, the go-to person, because you're spending more and more time doing what you do best, and therefore you're becoming stronger in your area of expertise. That naturally increases your productivity, because when we're not in flow, it feels a bit like wading through treacle. When we're doing things we're not naturally talented in, it takes us much longer than doing the things that we love and we do naturally well. And therefore it slows down our productivity. And do you know, Gallup have found that in most organizations, people are productive for only 3 hours a day. That's 3 hours out of an 8-hour day. That's got a massive impact on the bottom line. So when we are playing to our strengths, we're being productive and ultimately more profitable. And then, of course, when we are seen as an expert and our input is really valued, our natural strengths are being valued and honoured, then we are far more likely to want to engage and collaborate with the people around us, whether that's an actual team or whether it's a virtual team. We don't feel threatened by the rising talent around us because we are really secure in our strength and in the value that we bring to the workplace. And therefore, we engender a culture of collaboration and engagement. The energy of a team in flow is palpable. It's a magic place to work. And you've got the right people in the right role, doing the right things for all the right reasons, and a business that works like a well-oiled machine. It's all the cogs turning together in harmony. And that's a magic place to be. So I'd like you to pop in the chat box when you think you are most in flow. Just start thinking about it. I'm going to ask you that question again when I have gone through the 8 different profiles. So if you're not sure, then perhaps you'll get more enlightenment as I go through those profiles. So we're going to talk about 4 main energies of contribution compass. And we all have a bit of these energies in our profiles naturally. But depending on the percentage of each energy, you have identified through this questionnaire as one of these 8 profiles. So the activating energy, that bright red triangle right at the top there, that's all about innovation. It's about starting something new. So maybe starting a new business, or creating a new idea within the business, or starting a new project, or innovating that project to the next level. It's very fast-paced, very energized, always looking at the bigger picture and the vision for the future, and how can we bring something new in that's going to take us to the next level. The inspiring energy on the right-hand side here, this bright yellow triangle, is very much about then taking that idea and engaging the people around you in that idea, in that excitement, building that energy around it. So it's motivating the team to get on board and to be involved and to get out and talk about it. They might be in sales, they might be in marketing, they might be going out networking, but it's really encouraging them and motivating them to get out there and to be excited about what the business is doing and what you've got to offer your clients out there. The sustaining energy down at the bottom here, this green triangle, is very much taking that idea and all the excitement that's built up and turning that into something that is ultimately going to produce the end result. So sustaining energy are really good at looking at the idea and then scoping out a project, deciding what actions need to be taken to bring the idea into fruition, identifying ideal people to get involved who've got the right skill set to make those actions happen, setting deadlines and keeping the team on par, on time to make those projects come in to hit those deadlines. They're really good at engaging the team, harmonizing the team, and making sure that the daily tasks are completed. And then the refining energy over here, the blue triangle, they are very detail orientated, they're analytical. So they look at what's being done, the idea, the project, the energy, and they look at ways of improving it. They look at ways of doing it more efficiently, more effectively. They analyze the cash flow, the impact on the revenue. They build spreadsheets, they build contracts. They are very good at turning projects into processes. So they take everything to the next level, and they're very good at turning chaos into results. So moving on, let's look at those 8 profiles. And as I said earlier, look at not only your own profile, but also look at who you work with and where you think they might sit on the spectrum, and the people you live with and spend your time with, because it will give you much more idea of how to communicate with them to get the best out of your relationships. So we're going to start at the top, and we have the catalyst, who's bang in the middle of this activating energy. So the catalyst is the person that sparks up that new idea, that new company, that new project, or can take the project to a whole different level. And they're very good at inspiring others to get involved. Now, you have a primary profile. So in this case, the catalyst, you have 2 secondary profiles that are always either side of your primary profile. So for the catalyst, the secondary is the champion, which I'll be describing next, or the calibrator, which is the 8th profile I'll be describing today. You are most in flow in your primary profile, but you can swing to either champion or your calibrator, or whatever your secondary profile is, and be in flow part of the time when you're in those energies. But your energy in those 2 secondary profiles will run out faster than in your primary profile. Excuse me. There's a brief summary there, but I just want to give my own overview. The catalyst is brilliant at the start of anything new. They are excellent at brainstorming and looking at different angles and then firing up everybody to get on board with a new project idea. They're constantly thinking about what next. They like to be ahead of the curve. So they like to introduce ideas ahead of everybody else rather than wait till everybody else has done something and then finally catch on. They're very fast thinking and fast acting. So when they come up with an idea, they want to do it right away. They can be a little bit overwhelming for people that are more analytical, for people that are slower paced. And they can often overwhelm people they work with by having too many ideas at once. So a catalyst might come up with an idea today, and then in a couple of days' time go, actually, I've had a better idea. This is what we're going to do now. So if you feel you sit in this catalyst profile area, just be a little bit aware of the people around you and that your fast-paced, fast-thinking, fast-acting energy can overwhelm some people. It's not that they're trying to hold you back. It's just that they need more time to analyze what you're going to do, to weigh up the pros and cons, to research it before they can fully buy into it. And having new ideas thrown at them day after day after day can literally wear them out. So for a catalyst, it's important to take a little bit of time when you're coming up with something new. Run it by people that have got complementary strengths to you. So people that have got refining energy and sustaining energy and inspiring energy, and get their perspectives and come up with a better formed plan or a better formed idea where you've done a bit of research already, so that you're not always bombarding people with your new ideas. But I've got to say, catalysts are very exciting people to be around because nothing ever stays the same. If you think of your primary profile and your secondaries like pendulums, the catalyst can swing into the champion on the right and be in flow in that arena, or to the calibrator on the left and be in flow as a calibrator, but you'll always have more energy and be more in flow in your primary profile. So building a team with a catalyst, there is a magic formula for all of us. If you're working with 2 other people, so you've got a total team of 3, you're working on a project or an idea, then you go 2 round clockwise from your profile. So in this case, the catalyst, the first person to work with, is a coach who brings that lovely inspiring energy, and then 3 round clockwise from that profile, and you come to a cultivator. The cultivator has sustaining energy and refining energy. So this means that you're getting all those bases covered: activating, inspiring, sustaining and refining. You're getting the different dynamics, you're getting the different perspectives, the different energies. You're much more likely to get better results, better ideas, and more balance to take it forward. The next profile is the champion. This is one I know very well, and I noticed earlier that a lot of you fall into this. The champion is a trailblazer. So this is a secondary for the catalyst profile, but the champion is all about getting people on board. The champion will take the idea that the catalyst has come up with and get out there and run meetings, presenting on it, talking about it across social media platforms, getting it out there through marketing in different ways, perhaps doing what I'm doing right now, running a webinar or creating videos or podcasts. Champions are brilliant at spreading the word. They're quite evangelical when they're championing a cause. And something that they need to be aware of is sometimes champions can be blazing the trail for too many causes, and therefore people get confused because they're not sure what they're all about. So if you think you fall into a champion profile, ideally pick 1 or 2 causes and really do them well and focus on them before you move on to something else. Champions are usually very good on their feet. They add most value one to many. So they usually make really good presenters and workshop leaders. Champions can sometimes be too focused on the performance and forget about the detail. We don't tend to be people that like too much detail. So just be aware that you are best when you've got a team around you taking care of the detail, either a real team or a virtual team, and allowing you to spend more time doing what you do best, being in flow, delivering one-to-many. A champion of note is Oprah Winfrey, and she says, surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. People with complementary strengths that can support you, look after that detail and data, and allow you to shine as the champion that you are. Ideal people for champions to work with are connectors who can go out and make the right connections for them, and conductors who can look after the detail, the data, the analysis that the champion gets really bored with. So let's move on to the coach. This is the secondary for the champion, but also the connector is a secondary for the coach. Now, the coach is brilliant at igniting greatness. They make the best team leaders. They've got lots of this inspiring energy in their profile. They are really good at exciting the team around them about the new idea that the catalyst has launched and that the champion is out there shouting about. They will get buy-in from the team, and they'll get the team out there networking, meeting people and spreading the word and really getting on board with that new idea. The coach is incredibly supportive, so they spend a lot of time in conversation with the team around them and seeking everybody's opinion and making sure they're keeping everybody happy. They will also always fight the corner for the team around them. Challenge for a coach profile is that they can want to please everybody so much that they can seek too many opinions before they make a decision, and that can slow down the process of getting things done. And they can feel a little bit uncomfortable about keeping people accountable for their actions. So if you are a coach, be aware of that. Sometimes just a few key opinions are enough for you to move forward and make decisions. And also, you will gain respect by keeping people accountable for their actions. So make sure you do, because a team in flow is a team that takes action, and that's really important. Team building with coaches. Well, for a coach, an ideal person is a custodian, because custodians are practical. They'll make things happen. They'll get those projects in place and hit deadlines. But also a calibrator is a great person at looking at what the coach is working on and finding smarter ways to do it, more effective and more efficient. The next person is the connector. And the reason for the spider's web is the connector usually has a massive network of contacts. So they're the kind of person, when you're at a networking event and you say, I'm really looking for a great web designer or a graphic designer, they'll say, I know the ideal person for you. And before you've even got back to your desk, they'll have sent an email introducing you, copying both you and that person they're introducing you to in the email, and they've made that connection. So connectors are brilliant at building bridges with people. They ideally like to sit down with just 2 or 3 people. They prefer smaller groups rather than large audiences. And they'll find the best solution, the best way forward for everybody. And they'll bring different people that they know into the mix and different ideas into the mix. They're excellent at spotting opportunities, both for the business that they're working in, but as well for other people. They make great negotiators. They are very good mediators. They've got a sense of fun. So they make most of their meetings really conversational and fun. Challenge for a connector is they spend so much of their time helping everybody else, finding solutions for everybody else, that sometimes they find that they haven't spent any time looking after themselves, their own projects, their own business, and they need to step back for a while and just work on themselves and their own projects for a while. But great people to have around and love to be in conversation and debate. So ideal team for a connector is a cultivator, because the cultivator will take the ideas and the people that the connectors brought together and make sure that things happen. They make great project leaders. They bring analysis and research to ideas and projects to make sure that they're done to a very high standard. And then the second person is the catalyst, the ideas people, because connectors and custodians don't tend to come up with the ideas, but they're very good at taking those ideas and turning into something workable, which the cultivator can then make sure is launched. Okay, so moving on, a secondary for the connector is the custodian, and the custodian honors promises. So they nurture ideas and projects that have been brought to bear, and they make sure that those projects and ideas are taken from that innovation acceptance phase into application and results. So they will look at the ideas or the projects or the new business, and they'll scope out what needs to happen to actually move it forward. They'll then find the right people to bring in to action the tasks that need to be done, and they will keep those people accountable. So each day they'll be looking at who's doing what needs to happen, what's going to be finished by the next day. And each day they'll have a plan of action. They usually have a long to-do list, and they love nothing better than ticking off those to-do lists and getting things moving forward. They are brilliant at spotting any disharmony in a team, and they will spend time with people, re-engaging them, solving any issues, making them feel valued. So a bit like the connector, their challenge is that sometimes they can spend too much time sorting everybody's problems out, and then they can get overwhelmed and they're not looking after themselves. So if you think you're a custodian, make sure you have time for yourself when you're looking after your own energy, when you're sorting out your own issues, and ideally working with a coach or a mentor who can help you keep on track. Custodians are also brilliant at building long-term and very trusting relationships with clients. Ideal people for you to work with if you're a custodian: a conductor who is very good at the analysis, the detail, the refining, the making sure all the bases are covered, but also a champion who can get out there and shout about what you're doing, because custodians are not usually the best people to go out and present to large audiences, usually prefer just to work quietly with a team in the background. Just want to show you one of the big benefits of using Contribution Compass, and that is that you can have a collective team profile. So here you'll see we've got a champion, a catalyst, and a conductor. Collectively, they've got 37.7% activating energy, 24.5% inspiring energy, only 14.6% sustaining energy, 23.11% refining energy. So you can see that there's an imbalance here. They're too low in the sustaining energy, and the impact of that is that there'll be a block with actually moving things forward, getting things done, getting projects moving, and actually meeting deadlines. So if you were to be adding somebody into that team, an ideal person would be a custodian. And you can see that that custodian brings masses of sustaining energy. And when you add their energies into the team, you'll then get a collective score that would happen if you brought that person on board, and look at the impact on this sustaining energy. And what you're looking for in your team is to have a balance across these different energies, to make sure that you've got different strengths collaborating, to make sure you've got different ideas, different perspectives, different ways of working, that to collectively make a really good, impactful whole. Now, Karen Darley, who's put together these series of webinars, she uses Contribution Compass all the time in her recruitment. And I know she's got a lot of experience of using it in this way to see what impact her prospects for roles would have on the existing team. Let's come round to the last two profiles. We have the cultivator. The cultivator's all about nurturing growth. So the cultivator is the secondary of the custodian, but the cultivator's other secondary is conductor. The cultivator is really good at carrying on the work of the custodian. So they are really detailed focused. They always ask, what if? What if it doesn't work? What if we don't have a return on our investment? They are the risk averse profiles of the spectrum, and they will do analysis and research to make sure that your idea, your project is a low risk project to get into. And they'll do such a level of research that when they say this is a really good project and a good time to launch it, listen to them, because 99% of the time they're right. They've done the legwork, they've done the background work to justify their decision. If you give them something to do, like create a contract, for example, it will be done to an incredibly high standard. You will not even have to check it, because they will have checked it many, many times. Now, they are perfectionists. So one of the challenge for a cultivator is it can take you a while to start a project because you don't want to get it wrong. And you can end up doing just another piece of research, another bit of analysis to make sure you've covered all the bases. So one thing to remember is that good enough is good enough, and it can't always be perfect. And sometimes perfection is overrated and things do not need to be 110%. Cultivators can slow down projects because they're loath to move forward until they've done their research. However, they will put in the extra legwork to make sure that a project comes in on time. What are the ideal profiles for cultivators to work with? A calibrator, who I'm going to come on and explain shortly, and a coach who has that inspiring energy to engage and motivate the team. Let's come on to the conductor. Now, the conductor is exactly what it sounds. The conductor is brilliant at spotting the strengths of individuals in the team and then engaging them at the right time when that particular skill set is needed to move the project, the idea, the business forward at the right time. Conductors have an eye on everything, and so therefore they are really detail focused, so they can optimize the performance of the team around them. They often spot inefficiencies in a plan or a project. They often spot details that others don't see. They are really focused on looking after the bottom line, so they'll analyze the revenue projection, the cash flow projection. They'll analyze all the costs. And very often they'll put brakes on projects or ideas because they can see that they're not cost efficient or time efficient. So listen to your conductors, because when they come up with an idea or when they come up with a suggestion, a bit like the cultivators, they have thought it through. They've looked at all those bases. Challenge for a conductor is sometimes you can be seen as being a little bit cold, a bit aloof, because you're always involved in looking at the fine print and the detail. You're not going to be the sort of person that hangs about the coffee machine or the water cooler chatting about weekends and families, etc. However, when you come up with a plan, a project, you are very thorough, and usually you've crossed all the I's and dotted all the T's. Calibrator, ideal people to work with, are the catalyst for that brand new energy, and the connector who can bring the right people together to make things happen. Finally, let's look at the calibrator. And the calibrator, as the name suggests, is all about fine tuning, looking at ideas, at projects and plans, and finding better ways to do them. It might be more cost effective, it might be more time effective, it might be more people efficient. The calibrator looks at the ideas that the catalyst has come up with, pulls them apart, and finds a better way to do them. Now, once the calibrator has decided that they found a great way to do something, the challenge is they are very hard to shift. It's my way or no way. So if you are a calibrator, remember this and be aware that sometimes you need to be a little bit more flexible. You may have come up with a brilliant way of doing it, but it might just have to be tweaked slightly to suit the business or the team or the people that you're currently working with. Calibrators are brilliant at turning a project into a process. They're often in systemization of a business or in operations, and they're very good at finishing things to a high standard. Ideal people to work with for a calibrator are a champion. Somebody is going to go out there and fight the cause and blaze the trail, and a custodian who will allocate tasks, scope out the project, and bring things in on time. So that was a whistle-stop tour, and I've got 3 questions for you now before I bring the webinar to a close. Where are you now? When was the last time you felt totally aligned with what you were doing? It came easily and naturally, and time just flew by. I want you to take a moment to think about that right now. Either jot it down on a piece of paper or add it to the chat box. I'm going to be looking at the questions very shortly, or the comments very shortly. I'm going to give you a minute just to think about that. My second question is, what were you doing that fired you up so much? And you may be able to think of 2 or 3 instances when you were really engaged, so aligned that time just flew by, that it didn't drain your energy, it energized you and inspired you because you were absolutely playing to your strengths. So this is not just what you like to do, it's that feeling of being powered up and totally aligned with the task in hand. What were you doing when you felt like that? Again, just pop it in the chat box. And my last question is, and this is one to ponder after this webinar, how could you spend more time doing what you do best, fully in flow, because that's where you add most value to the business, to your clients, to your colleagues, and to yourself, because when you're in flow, you're energized, you're fired up, and you inspire everybody that you interact with. So it's a win-win all round. And this is when you're tapping into more of your true potential and you're maximizing that talent. I don't have time to go into this in any detail because we've run out of time, but a great way to use this information is to work in blocks of energy rather than switching between the different energies. And I can send this to you afterwards. It's about grouping your tasks into purpose, catalyst energy, connection energy, progressing or analyzing energy, and doing all the tasks in that group, in that one energy together, rather than switching from activating energy to refining energy to inspiring energy to sustaining energy, which will drain your energy. It's about blocking blocks of time and doing all your creative stuff in a block, all your connection stuff in a block, all your analyzing stuff in a block. You'll find you work far more effectively because your mind, your brain, your thoughts are all in that one energy space. A couple of special offers. I've got 6 90-minute coaching sessions for you at just £497 plus VAT. These are normally £2,000. So this is a wonderful offer to get you from where you are now to where you want to go to. And I've got lots of brilliant input there. I'm also running an online program, and all the details are on my website, which is sylviabaldock.com. The contribution compass, I've just whistled through it right now. There is great benefit from having a one-to-one debrief session, which I will do with you online. It is normally £197. I am charging just 57 plus VAT for this right now, so you save £140. And then finally, my website, sylviabaldock.com. And these details are on the follow-up email that will come out to you. So, final quote for you. We are all only scratching the surface of our true potential. Beyond wherever you are now lies an infinite well of potential that will absolutely astound you. And the great thing is that you never reach the bottom of that well. The more you dive in, the deeper it gets. It's a continual journey. And we all have the ability to do that. So remember what I said earlier, it's important to be scared regularly. If you're feeling scared, it means you're stretching and you're growing. And that's what we need to be doing to continually evolve, to tap into our potential, our infinite potential, and to maximize our talent. So I'm going to bring this webinar to a close. However, I'm going to stay online. I'm going to answer some questions, and I look forward to hearing from you now. So I'm opening the chat box now. And thank you, Kaga-san. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. I'd love to see where you're most in flow. Let's see. Tom, implementing a project from ground zero. Love it. Hugerson, lovely. In flow, Nick, before the lockdown. Love it. Herman, I'm not sure I understand the question, but yes, you want to have as much flow as possible. I always say to aim for 70 to 80% of flow, because I'm recognizing that we all need to spend some of our time doing things that we don't like doing. For example, I'm a champion. Detailed data research are not my strengths, not my flow, but of course I have to spend time looking at how my business is working. I need to look at the accounts. I don't have to input any of the details. So the more balanced your team is, the more effective it will become. Okay, just realized that my video wasn't on, for which I'm very sorry. So let's see, are there any more questions or comments on being in flow? Making a positive impact to people. Lovely, Nick. What specifically are you doing that's making a positive impact? Thank you guys for your thanks. Below project management. What part of project manager, what was it that you loved? Thank you, Bilal. Nick, success rates in organizations. Do you mean organizations that have implemented this? If so, the success rates are very high. I'm currently working with a team up in Glasgow. I'm working with several teams, but a team up in Glasgow particularly, and they've seen a massive difference in engagement, productivity, and collaboration as a result of this. Nick, how can this help post COVID-19? Well, it can help in many ways. But first of all, if you're working with a team, it's absolutely vital to know what you're working with so you can make the most of the people in those teams. This is an ideal time to run a team session with them, to find out where their strengths lie and to have a conversation with them about where they feel they add most value. So post-lockdown, you can enable them to channel more of their time and energy into their areas of natural expertise, where they become more engaged, more productive, and add most value to the business and to the team. A lot of people will be reevaluating what they're doing right now and looking at ways in which they can live life in a way that is more fulfilling, because not only have we had time out to think about what we're doing, we've also been faced with our own mortality, with a number of people all around us who are passing on. And that really stops you in your tracks and makes you think about, if that was me, what would I be proud of that I've achieved in my life? And if I knew that I only had another year on this planet, or 6 months, for example, what impact would I like to be having, so that I know that I'm leaving some sort of legacy when I pass on from this world? So a lot of us are asking really deep questions of ourselves right now. So this is a time for innovation, for change, for rethinking, and for really harnessing the potential and the talent of the people that you work with, and also your own team. Sorry, I temporarily was pushed out the room. I didn't get a chance to mention the spirit aspect more than just a passing thing. So, and I've lost the chat box. Never mind. But I did notice that somebody had put something in about spirit. Spirit is our sense of purpose. We can't measure that in the profiling, but just want to recognize that we need to honor the spirit energy. And it's important to spend time thinking about our why, our purpose. Why do we do things that we do? And to spend time regularly thinking, am I on purpose? Am I doing work that really fulfills my purpose in life? Am I tapping into more of my true potential? And that's what spirit is all about. It's about taking time out regularly to check in with your vision. Are you aligned with your vision? Are you planning your work so you're spending that 70 to 80% of your time in flow? Are you honoring your values? Thank you, Nick. Okay, so thank you all for participating. Not sure whether you can still hear me. Do get in touch. Do get in touch. And hey, thank you, Carissa. Lovely to see that you've found out when you're most in flow. Love to hear more from you. So do drop me a message. It's just sylvia@sylviabaldock.com. I'd love to know when you're most in flow. And I really look forward to hearing from some of you after this call. And there will be an ebook coming out to you, repeating my message and with my contact details. So do stay in touch. Look forward to seeing you on future emails, on future webinars. And please stay safe. Take care, everybody.